Hey, welcome back to the channel, and it's been about 2 weeks since I've had the Pixel 7 Pro, and you may have seen videos on this already, but I actually wanted to spend more time with the phone and see what it's all about. Now, as someone who loved and raved about the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro from last year, this was actually the phone that I was really looking forward to because I've always loved the Pixel's camera system, and boy, they did not disappoint this year. Let me tell you why. All right, so first things first, the Pixel 7 Pro is of course using the all-new G2 processor, which is their next generation processor that's all about AI and machine learning. Now, here's the thing with these Tensor chips though. They're not supposed to be blazing fast like phones with, the latest Qualcomm processors. And if you're actually thinking of buying the Pixel 7 series just because you think it'll give you the best performance, that's not really the case here. And if I'm being honest, the Tensor G2 is probably comparable to a Snapdragon 888 processor from 2 years ago in terms of performance, but with the battery efficiency of the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Now, besides the brand new G2 processor, you're also getting 12 gigs of RAM on the 7 Pro, which is always nice to see, and up to 256 gigs of storage. Now, I wish the Pixel phones would actually go up to 512 gigs or a terabyte to match with other premium flagship phones around this price point, but I guess Google's all in on cloud storage with Google Drive and Google Photos, and having that tied to your Google account so you can back up all your data. But me personally, I would love to have, a 512 gig or 1 terabyte option for Pixel phones in the future. In terms of design and how the phone feels in my hand, in my opinion, it actually feels slightly different from last year's 6 Pro since the display doesn't actually curve as much to the sides of the phone, which actually feels better to hold, if that makes any sense. Now, if you notice from some of the shots of the phone throughout this video, the iconic camera bar is now made out of aluminum, which I love. I'm actually glad they got rid of that glass panel, which actually splits up into 2 or 3 different panels. With this all aluminum build, it actually makes it more premium looking, and I love the pill and circular cutouts on them. But just be warned that this will scratch and show scratches a lot easier than last year, so you may want to put a case or skin on this, which is what I'll be doing. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I love me some dbrand skins. So huge shout out to dbrand for sponsoring a portion of this video. Now, dbrand just dropped these new digital camo skins, which looks incredible as usual. Personally, I love how this glitch camo looks, and it's definitely the one that I'll be putting on my 7 Pro. And you can also pick it up in Arctic White and Navy Camo. If you guys want to pick up your own set of digital camo skins or grip case for the 7 Pro, make sure to go to dbrand.com/heymarkl or click the first link in the description below. Alright, so the display, like I mentioned earlier, is now slightly less curved than last year's 6 Pro, but another big change here on the display front is that it's now a lot brighter too. It's 25% brighter, up to 1500 nits, which is similar to some of the other flagships that's around the 7 Pro's price point. So if you're constantly using your phone outdoors, it'll get up to 1500 nits, which makes using the phone so much more enjoyable. The screen is also 1440p, 120Hz OLED, which means colors look vibrant, the blacks are deep, and the texts are really crisp and sharp. However, out of the box, it will be set to 1080p to save on battery life, so if you want that extra resolution, I'd highly suggest changing it in the settings to 1440p. Otherwise, keep it at 1080p, which will save you a little bit of battery. And speaking of the battery, in the last 2 weeks that I've had the phone, the Pixel 7 Pro is pretty much in line with last year's 6 Pro. I was able to average around 6.5 to 7 hours of screen on time, which will give me almost always a full day of usage. Now, in terms of software, not much has really changed here on the Pixel 7 Pro. Much like the hardware, everything else on the software front feels more refined this time around, especially with Android 13. It's the same Pixel launcher and software we know and love, with little to no gimmicks and lots of AI things to really help you get the best experience out of your smartphone. Now, a few things that jumped out to me this year in terms of software were Face Unlock, which isn't as secure as the one from the Pixel 4 XL, I believe, but it's still good to have it here, and it's really nice that I can use it alongside the fingerprint scanner. Voice transcriptions and messages are pretty cool as well, so if you have that one friend who always sends you voice memos, you can see the text above the playhead of what they sent. And then there's on-device voice typing, which now supports a bunch of different languages, and emoji support, which is super helpful for those who have difficulties typing directly on their phone's keyboard. But besides that though, there's a couple more new software features that's more camera focused, which we'll talk about right now. So in terms of its cameras, Google didn't really change the camera hardware from last year, but more so refined it. It's still equipped with a 50 megapixel main wide camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera that is now much wider than before, and it also has autofocus to help shoot macro photos. And exclusive to the Pro is a 48 megapixel 5x periscope zoom lens. Now, besides hardware though, the Tensor G2 processor also refines how it handles photo processing, but it'll also give you the ability to shoot 4K 60 on all three cameras, which is actually a complaint that I had last year. Now, you can also shoot in 10-bit HDR video recording and of course cinematic blur, which I'll show you how that looks in a little bit. But one new photo feature that they added this year on the Pixel 7 series is Photo Unblur, which uses AI and machine learning to help take your somewhat blurry photos and magically unblurs it. And the cool part about this is that photos don't have to be shot on a Pixel 7. You can take a photo shot on a different phone or, camera and process it with a Pixel 7 series, and it'll do its best to unblur it. It's a pretty cool feature to have, but I have a feeling this might be coming to other Pixel devices in the future, but who knows? Now, in terms of photo quality, I've always loved how Pixel photos look out of the camera, and the same applies to the 7 Pro. Like the going theme with the Pixel 7 series, the photos look more refined. The photos look really good with the right amount of contrast and color accurate colors. The HDR processing is top notch, where it's not over exaggerating the highlights and the shadows together. It's not overly processed or too sharp, which I really appreciate as well. And in low light, I noticed that they look just as good as photos with ample lighting, and I also noticed that white balance looks very true to life, which some phones actually struggle with. Plus, night sight and astrophotography mode is just unreal on this phone. The Tensor G2 processor helps speed up those processing times for night sight too, which theoretically can shave a few seconds when snapping a night sight photo. But jumping back into cinematic blur though, this is the other new software feature that Google added to the Pixel 7 series, and I really like what Google's doing here. The blur looks flattering and does a pretty good job with good lighting, but in my opinion, it's just not as polished as cinematic mode on iPhone yet. But that doesn't mean it's not good. I have a really cool video on cinematic blur on my Instagram page that I have pinned so you can watch that, and it's shot entirely on the Pixel 7 Pro. Now, one advantage iPhone users actually have on their cinematic mode is that they have aperture control to change the amount of blur in each video, whether it's before or after filming, and they can also change the focus before and after shooting, which you can't do on the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro yet. Now, one thing that they did add to the iPhone 14 series is that you can film cinematic mode in 4K in 24p or 30p, while the Pixel 7 series can only shoot in 1080p 24, which is fine, especially for social media. But I would love to have a 4K option here for more detail in every shot. But for a first generation release on the Pixel, it's not bad. Just make sure you have good lighting to get the best results. And yeah, that's pretty much my experience with the Pixel 7 Pro after using it for 2 weeks. It's pretty much a refinement from last year's 6 Pro. And if you actually didn't get to upgrade last year and you're still waiting to upgrade, this is actually the year to do so, because what Google's doing here with the 7 and 7 Pro is refining and perfecting the new era of Pixel phones, and I really think that they did it right this year, and I can't wait to see what they're cooking up for the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro.